What's the most awkward thing that's happened at a sleepover? About 11 years ago, sleepover with girls and boys. All lights are out for about 10 minutes. We have all settled down and gotten silent for sleeping. Then we hear a grown male voice clearly enunciate the word what. Now, let me be clear. This was not a child's voice. This was like hearing James Earl Jones say what. There was about a 10-second silence, and then one of the girls says, "Who said that?" Silence. Then one of the boys starts laughing uncontrollably. We turn the lights on, and he is laughing so hard that he's crying. Here we are all freaking out about some strange man in our room while we sleep, and he's pissing himself laughing. He finally calms down enough to tell us that it wasn't a person who asked what. He farted the word. His fart sounded exactly like the word what. We all cracked up. To this day everyone from that party still answers phone calls from each other with what? When I was 6 I watched Jurassic Park at a friend's house one night. Got so scared I demanded my mom to come pick me up and take me home. So I said I was sick. My mother did not believe me. So I my pants in my friend's living room on accident, so she would have to come get me. I didn't really go over to my friend's house that much after that. Fear can make a child crazy, especially fear of velociraptors. Our entire friend group and my poor friend Baxter, that seems like a fun name, watched as my science teacher got a BJ from Baxter's single mom in a hot tub from the window. We were 13. There are some things you can't unsee. Edit, Grandma. Your mama sure does care about your schooling, son. Does a Boy Scout trip count? Well, if it does, here it goes. I was in BS in an inner city area. The older kids were well, my first weekend trip my dad loaded me on goodies to share. I fell asleep and the older kids raided my bag and took just about everything. So but whatever. I go home and tell my dad, and he was but really composed, which was odd for my Irish longshoreman dad. So next month is my next trip and my dad made a big batch of brownies, but told me not to eat any or share with my friends. He told me leave them in my bag like I did last time. Sure enough, I woke up and they were gone, and 3 kids were themselves like crazy. Yup, my popsix lacks the brownies. He showed up that same morning to the campsite with another goodie bag for me to share. Never HQD my bag raided again. TL. Dr. Older Boy Scouts robbed my treats, so my dad literally made them themselves. Your dad is awesome. I was 10 I think, and it was the first time I stayed over at this kid's house. Well, we go to sleep at like 2 or 3 AM and all seemed well. Then suddenly his drunk grandfather charges in the room and gets the poor kid in a headlock and drags him to the floor. Oh, and he was naked. I guess he suffered from PTSD or something. I kind of ignored the whole event while it was happening and did not acknowledge it the next morning. I did not go back again. I was out camping with a neighbor friend of mine when we were 14. I woke up hearing the shuffle of her sleeping bag. I asked her what she was doing, and without breaking a stride she said that she was warming herself up. Then I turned on the lamp and found her on top of her bag, naked and masturbating. She immediately stopped and pulled her sleeping bag up over herself, and she turned out the lamp. We sat there in silence for about 3 minutes. Then I said, "You can finish if you wanna." "No, you ruined it." We didn't speak much the rest of the trip. You gave her the opportunity to finish, at least. I once slept over at a friend's house. He was a bit older than me. This difference was where he had discovered masturbation, whereas I had not. Anyway, I heard his bed furiously rocking back and forth. I asked him what he was doing. He said he was doing push-ups. It was dark, so I took him for his word. So then I asked if I could do push-ups with him. Years later it all dawned on me. You had no reason to doubt the man was getting swole in the middle of the night. In about grade 7, I had a sleepover with a few friends. One of them started crying when we started watching The Simpsons because he wasn't allowed to watch it at home. We couldn't calm him down for almost an hour. Real life Rod/Todd. Back when I used to pee the bed in 3rd grade, I fell asleep in my friend's bed during a sleepover at his house. I pissed the bed. It was awkward, and I never stayed the night at his house again. But what was most awkward was that when I woke up, he was sitting in a chair staring at me, waiting for me to wake up. You know what you did? finally invited to a sleepover at a popular girl's house, started my period, and bled all over my PJs, which I borrowed from her, and her sheets. The day after the sleepover, my friend wouldn't let me leave, no matter what I did. Around 6 PM his dad finally said I should probably go home. Friend burst into tears, threw himself to the floor, and was begging his dad to make me stay. There's nothing worse than being a kid at the house the next day wanting so badly to go home. When I was 12 my friend Peter had a disco themed birthday party. No, I don't know why, at his house. The party being on a Friday, we all stayed the night. Being preteen boys with limitless cola, we ended up staying up all night and decided to watch the sunrise on his back deck. As we're looking at the majestic, slowly lightening sky, our peaceful moment is shattered by a shrill, screaming voice. Looking to the source of the sound we see his fat, topless, 50-plus-year-old neighbor lady yelling through her kitchen window that we are degenerate perverts. She was under the impression we were all staring at her. Once the yelling started we couldn't really help it, and that horrible image will be forever burned into my mind. I'm 29 now. Of course she thought that. You can't handle these lumps. Me and my friend slept in his mom's bedroom on the floor because she liked company since her husband passed away a few weeks before. Apparently when my mom came to pick me up the next day my friend's mom said I climbed into bed with her. I had no idea. Classic case of sleepwalking. Friend's mom walked downstairs to find 8 6th grade boys huddled around the TV watching. We instantly pretended to be asleep and nothing was ever said after that. I still think of it every time I see her. I'm imagining you all just falling over like those narcoleptic goats with the still playing in the background. Took the most wholesomely fulfilling in my friend's bathroom and ended up flooding the bathroom at 2 AM. The parents had to clean up the entire mess. It was an awkward breakfast the next morning. 5 people in one room in their sleeping bags about to sleep and all I hear is a very slow fapping noise. We didn't find out who it was in the morning. I was about 10, sleeping over with a group of pals, including my buddy's little brother who was around 6. We finished up a few rousing games of Donkey Kong 64 and Hydro Thunder and all went to bed. Woke up to find the little brother standing ominously above me. Naked except for a pair of Christmas themed tube socks on his hands and arms and into my half open sleeping bag. No more sleepovers at Ryan's house. Guess you played 2 different kinds of Hydro Thunder that night. Not really a sleepover. I was 23 at the time and drove to California to stay on a buddy's couch. I drank a bunch of beer after the long drive and passed out. Woke up having myself on his couch. It is about 5 AM. I grab a towel and lay on it on the couch, resigning myself to being the guy who on the couch for the duration of my stay. By some miracle the towel absorbed most of it. Him and his roommates woke up around 9 AM and nobody knew a thing. Edit, except his cat. His cat knew. Please tell me his cat was not named Towel. Camping in the backyard with some friends when I had to pee super bad. I couldn't find the zipper to the tent to get out and I was about to burst. So I ended up trying to through the mesh window. I don't know why. Well, through mesh doesn't work very well, especially with terrible 9-year-old aim and I ended up laying a pretty thick layer of atomized urine all over everyone else in the tent. In the morning it turns out one of my other friends was awake pretending to be asleep and saw the whole thing and told everyone it was me who all over everything in the tent. Dude was awake while he was getting all over him and said nothing. What man? Needless to say I was not invited to another sleepover for quite a while. When I was about 7 or 8, me and a few friends were sleeping in a tent in my best friend / neighbor's front yard. His dad was a bit of an alcoholic, quite similar to Randy Marsh actually. Anyways, his dad comes home from the bar, plastered, bursts into the tent and wakes us all up, saying we should all go up to the elementary school across the street. We go with him, the whole time acting like spies, avoiding all the lights, all under his drunk directions. We get to the playground, and he decides he wants to challenge all of us to a foot race. So we all line up, he yells Geo, and we all take off. Surprisingly, he kept up with us almost all the way to the finish line, before he busted his fell flat on his face, on concrete. He also landed awkwardly on his arm, breaking his wrist. Was awkward at the time, but looking back on it 20 years later, it's quite hilarious. Edit. Woke up today to find I was given Reddit gold. Thank you, kind stranger. I like this story because it's a drunk dad that isn't doing some family ruining just having a good time breaking wrists, etc. Mine are all things that I did. When I was in grade 1, I had a sleepover with my old best friend and her new best friend. I was jealous and felt left out the whole time. That night I wet the bed and we never hung out again. When I was younger, I used to puke if I ate eggs, even scrambled, and my friend's dad made eggs. I was trying to be polite and eat them, but I couldn't keep them down and ran to the bathroom right off the dining room to throw up his nice breakfast. Third one, and the most mortifying. I was at a friend's house and got my period. I was wearing a thong and she didn't have any tampons, just huge pads. So I tried to make it work anyway. The next day we were sitting on the computer and there were only seats for 2 of us. So I sat on the one girl's lap. After a while I got up and realized I bled through my jeans and all over her leg. She laughed her off. Thankfully, instead of being disgusted, her mom had me sit on a towel when she drove me home. I was sleeping over at my cousin's house. We stayed up and snuck out into the living room to watch Cinemax. It was after midnight, and back in those days, that was when all the titty flicks came on. One came on that my cousin was really into. He started touching his raging erection in his pajama pants, and then he let out a blood-curdling scream. Somehow he ruptured a vein or something in his We had to go wake up his mom. She looked at it and decided we had to go to the emergency room. Our whole family still makes fun of him for that until this day when we get together. Told my friend I hadn't changed my underwear in over a week. I learned a lot that sleepover, like change your underwear frequently. Edit. Just to clarify, I'm female and this happened when I was maybe 10. I'm 25 now and I promise I'm wearing clean underwear today. One time at a sleepover I left my dirty skid marked underwear in my friend's room, and when she asked everyone whose it was I had to lie. I learned that wearing dirty skid marked underwear was not normal at that sleepover. I was a gross child. My friend's dog woke me up with his tongue in my mouth. One time I was over at a friend's house for his 11th birthday. It was myself, the birthday boy, and 3 other guys. We all slept in our sleeping bags in the basement. At around 5 AM, we all awake to find Jake yelling at the birthday boy Derek. The reason? Derek thought it was funny to take a piss on Jake's face while he was sleeping, and Jake freaked out. Jake walked out right after that, while the rest of us stayed up and called our parents around 7. I went home around 8, and in that time, Derek was still trying to play it off as funny. Derek lost 4 friends that night. It's his party, he can where he wants to. My friend sitting next to me saw a kid shove a Lego axe up his in the middle of the night while he thought my friend was asleep. I was in 4th grade and sleeping over at my best friend's house. I wet his bed and then clogged their toilet with a massive. I didn't know what to do, so I shut the lid and ran into their garage to hide. 13 or 14 years old. All night RPG session. Pen and paper with my buddies in my friend's basement. His awesome and very traditionally Chinese mom brings us course after course of food throughout the evening as I vainly try to GM an adventure where my friends are more interested in creating in-game simulations of being drunk. GURPS had a skill for that, like everything else, than in actually playing the game. The night wears on, and we finally pass out with dawn quickly approaching. Shortly afterward I wake up with a start. My stomach didn't like the awesome Chinese food as much as the rest of me did. Jump up off the basement floor and bolt for the bathroom. Only I'm really tall and have a problem with passing out when I get up too quickly. Blackout in the doorway and fall hard. Wake up a moment later with my friend standing over me. That's when it hits me, that looming feeling of dread when you realize that you had just your pants in front of a room full of your peers. Is this real, or am I dreaming? These terror-filled thoughts are interrupted by a renewed gurgling in my stomach. Apparently it is all too real. I claw my way into the bathroom and slam the door shut on my startled friends. I pull my pants down and unleash a foul kind of hell in the toilet even as continues to soak into my ill-fitting jeans. This happened in the 90s. But wait, there's more. Suddenly I need to vomit because this delicious food apparently cannot leave my body fast enough. I do the only rational thing that can be done and start puking into the garbage can as I continue to add to the mountain of underneath me. Apparently I had offended some vengeful deity that day because, obviously, the basket is wicker. So there I am. Everything that can be as I vomit into a garbage can that is, at best, straining it. The floor is covered in vomit. My pants are full of and that's the day that my social anxiety started. Welcome to the next decade of your life, kid.